The reluctant vessel Celestial Pathfinder gleamed under the artificial lights of Docking Bay 17, its sleek hull reflecting the bustling activity of Nexus Station. Technicians from a dozen species swarmed around the vessel, running diagnostics, checking systems, and searching for the elusive flaw that had stumped the greatest minds in the galactic Confederation for months. It wasn't a mechanical failure. The ship was perfect, a magnificent blend of technologies from the most advanced civilizations in known space. Its quantum drives could bend reality to achieve speeds that made light seem sluggish. Its neural interface systems could process information faster than any organic brain. Its adaptive hull could withstand the pressure of gas giant atmospheres or the heat of stellar coronas. There was just one problem: the Celestial Pathfinder refused to fly Admiral Vexstar at all. Willowy Archean with skin that shimmered like mercury stood on the observation deck, six-fingered hands clasped behind his back. His large, pupil-less eyes narrowed as he watched yet another pilot candidate approach the ship. "The Mavori are renowned navigators," said Science Director Genla, her tentacles writhing anxiously. "If Captain Cavriel cannot activate the vessel, I fear no one can." They watched as the bulbous, multi-eyed Mavori climbed into the cockpit, his specialized appendages moving with practiced precision across the controls. For a moment, a flicker of light pulsed through the ship's systems, then darkness. Complete shutdown. Just like the previous 17 attempts. Another failure, Vexstar sighed. "We've tried pilots from every major spacefaring species. The Pathfinder responds momentarily, then rejects them all." Genla's skin darkened with frustration. The ship was designed as a collaborative project. No single species contributed more than 20% of its technology. There's nothing in its programming that should cause this selective behavior, and yet it persists. Vexstar replied, "The Council grows impatient. This vessel represents the future of Confederation exploration. Its systems could revolutionize interstellar travel." He turned to face his colleague. "We have one option remaining, though I was reluctant to suggest it. You can't mean, yes, we must try a human pilot." Genla's tentacles stiffened. "Humans, they've barely achieved level 3 civilization status. They're impulsive, emotional, unpredictable, and possibly our last hope," Vexstar interrupted. "Their diplomatic vessel arrives tomorrow. I've already requested their top pilot join us." Commander Alara Chen stood at the viewport of the diplomatic shuttle, watching Nexus Station grow larger against the backdrop of swirling nebula gases. At 35, she was the youngest person ever to achieve a rank in the United Earth Command. With over 1,000 flight hours in experimental craft, her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun. Her uniform crisp despite the 3-day journey from Earth. Approaching final docking sequence, Commander, her co-pilot, announced, "Copy that, Lieutenant. Take us in nice and easy. Let's show our new friends that humans know how to drive." Earth had only joined the Galactic Confederation 5 years ago, after their development of rudimentary warp technology caught the attention of Confederation scouts. Humanity was still finding its place among the stars, often regarded with a mixture of curiosity and condescension by older spacefaring species. The diplomatic mission was meant to strengthen ties and negotiate more technology exchanges. Alara's presence was supposed to be ceremonial, a demonstration of human piloting skill. In controlled exhibitions, the urgent request from Admiral Vexstar had changed everything. After docking procedures and formal greetings, Alara was escorted directly to Docking Bay 17. She stopped short when she saw the Celestial Pathfinder. "That's not what I was expecting," she breathed. The ship was beautiful of flowing, organic design that somehow incorporated geometric precision. It wasn't large, perhaps twice the size of a standard shuttle, but it radiated power and purpose. Something about it called to her like a melody just at the edge of hearing. Admiral Vexstar approached, accompanied by a rippling mass of tentacles that Alara assumed was another high-ranking official. "Commander Chen, welcome to Nexus Station. I am Admiral Vexstar, and this is Science Director Genla. Thank you for responding to our request with such haste." Elara tore her eyes away from the ship. It's an honor, Admiral. Though I admit I'm confused about why you need a human pilot when the Confederation has species with centuries more space travel experience. Zhenle's translator converted her harmonic vibrations into English. The Pathfinder has refused. Oh, previous pilots. We've tried 18 different species without success, refused. Elara raised an eyebrow. You make it sound like the ship has a mind of its own. Perhaps it does, Vexstar said quietly. The vessel incorporates biomimetic, quantum computing and neural pathway technology. It's designed to bond with its pilot on a level beyond mere control interfaces. But so far, it has rejected every attempt at connection. Elara looked back at the Pathfinder. And you think it might accept me because we have exhausted all other options, Zhenle said bluntly. Humans are something of an anomaly in the Confederation. Your species evolved in isolation, developing unique neural patterns and cognitive approaches. What my colleague means, Vexstar interjected diplomatically, is that human thinking sometimes follows paths that surprise us. Your species has shown remarkable adaptive capabilities and intuitive leaps that more established civilizations might not consider. Elara understood the subtext. Humans were unpredictable, chaotic, maybe even a little primitive by Confederation standards. But sometimes that was exactly what was needed. When do we start? She asked. The cockpit of the Celestial Pathfinder was unlike anything Elara had ever seen. Instead of traditional controls, the space featured a semicircular array of crystalline interfaces and holographic displays that seemed to shift and reorganize themselves as she watched. The pilot's seat was a contoured piece that looked like it had been grown rather than manufactured. A team of technicians fitted her with neural interface nodes at her temples and wrists. The small devices adhered to her skin with a cool tingle. These will facilitate the initial connection, a spindly Tesser engineer explained. If the ship accepts you, a deeper neural link will form naturally. And if it doesn't accept me? Elara asked. The engineer exchanged glances with a colleague. Then nothing happens. The ship remains dormant. Elara settled into the pilot's seat, which adjusted immediately to her form. It felt right. Somehow like sitting in a chair that had been waiting just for her. She placed her hands on the crystalline interfaces. So what do I... She didn't finish the sentence. The moment her fingers touched the controls, the entire cockpit blazed to life. Displays flickered and stabilized, showing ship systems coming online. A low hum built beneath her, the sound of immense power awakening in the observation area. Admiral Vexstar and Science Director Zhenle stared in shock. It's never responded this quickly. Zhenle whispered, not even for a moment, inside the cockpit. Elara felt a presence, not words exactly, but impressions forming in her mind. Welcome, recognition, anticipation. The neural link is establishing, a technician reported, voice rising with excitement. All systems are coming online. Elara felt a gentle pressure in her mind, like someone knocking politely at a door. Instinctively, she opened herself to it. The connection bloomed. Suddenly, she wasn't just sitting in the Pathfinder, she was the Pathfinder. She could feel every system, every circuit, the quantum drives pulsing with potential energy. The ship's senses became extensions of her own, revealing the structure of the docking bay in wavelengths beyond human perception. This is she. Whispered. Incredible. Admiral Vexstar stepped forward. Commander Chen, can you hear me? Perfectly, Elara replied, though she wasn't sure if she'd spoken aloud or through the ship's communication systems. The link is complete. The ship, it recognizes me somehow. Can you initiate basic systems? Nothing that would engage the drives, just fundamental operations. Elara didn't need to press controls or give verbal commands. She simply willed the systems to activate, and they responded. Lights cycled through the hull. External sensors deployed. Navigational systems calibrated. Everything is responding, she reported. It feels natural, like the ship is an extension of my body. The observation area erupted in excited conversation. After months of failure, success had come from the most unexpected source, a human, barely established in the interstellar community. We should proceed with caution, Zhenle advised. Run full diagnostics before attempting any movement. But Alara and the Pathfinder were already ahead of them. Diagnostic data streamed across a consciousness, all systems optimal, all connections secure. Diagnostics complete, she announced. The ship is ready for flight testing. Admiral Vexstar looked startled. Already? Our protocols suggest at least 12 hours of systems verification before, Admiral. Alara interrupted. The Pathfinder has been waiting to fly. I can feel it. 12 hours of verification won't tell you anything you don't already know. Vexstar hesitated, then nodded. Prepare for a controlled test flight within the station's defensive perimeter. Nothing more. Asterisk. The celestial Pathfinder slipped from its docking clamps like a predator leaving its den. Alara guided it with thoughts rather than physical controls, the ship responding to her intentions before she could fully form them. Through the neural link, she sensed the Pathfinder's eagerness, a ship designed for the depths of unexplored space. Finally free to move, she kept a tight rein on that enthusiasm, navigating carefully through Nexus Station's busy traffic lanes. Commencing basic maneuvering tests, she reported to Control. What followed astonished even the most experienced Confederation observers. The Pathfinder executed maneuvers that should have been physically impossible, moving with a grace that defied its size and mass. It responded to Alara's commands with perfect precision, anticipating her intentions and adjusting for optimal performance. The ship's capabilities are beyond our projections. Zhenle's voice came through the communication system. We're recording efficiency levels 20% higher than design specifications. Alara smiled. It wants to show off. Shall we give the audience a real demonstration? Without waiting for a response, she directed the Pathfinder into a complex series of maneuvers, rolls, dives, and tight turns that pushed the limits of the ship's inertial dampeners. She felt the pure joy of flight, amplified through the neural connection with a vessel that seemed equally exhilarated to be in motion. Commander Chen, Admiral Vexstar's voice cut through her euphoria. You were instructed to perform basic tests. Only. Alara eased back, bringing the ship to a stable position. Apologies, Admiral. The Pathfinder and I got a bit carried away. When she returned to the docking bay, a crowd had gathered. News of the successful flight had spread throughout the station. Engineers, scientists, and diplomats from dozens of species watched as the celestial Pathfinder settled gracefully into its birth dot as the neural link disengaged. Alara felt a lingering presence, the ship's reluctance to let her go, like a whispered promise to return. She stepped out of the cockpit to find Admiral Vexstar waiting. That was unprecedented, he said, his mercurial skin shifting with emotion. In all our tests, no pilot has achieved even basic activation, let alone flight. You and the Pathfinder moved as one entity. Alara nodded. That's exactly how it felt. There's something more to this ship than conventional technology. Isn't there? Vexstar exchanged glances with Zhenle. Perhaps. The Pathfinder was designed to incorporate technologies beyond our complete understanding. Artifacts recovered from ancient sites. Theoretical principles still being explored, all integrated into its systems. The ship spoke to me, Alara said, quietly, not in words but in feelings, impressions. It's been waiting specifically for a human pilot. Impossible, Zhenle interjected. The Pathfinder's construction began before humanity joined the Confederation. How could it be designed for a species we barely knew existed? I don't have that answer, Alara admitted. But the connection is undeniable. As discussions continued, a new alert sounded. The Pathfinder's sensors, still active despite the completed docking procedure, had detected something at the edge of the sister-man anomaly in space-time that matched no known natural phenomenon. Admiral Vexstar frowned as he reviewed the data. This requires investigation. The anomaly shares characteristics with theoretical wormhole formation, but with unusual energy signatures. The Pathfinder should be sent. Elara said immediately, feeling a strange urgency. It's the fastest vessel available, and its sensors are already calibrated to the anomaly's frequency. Out of the question, Genla responded, "We've only just confirmed basic functionality. The ship requires extensive testing before any mission deployment." But Elara felt something through her lingering connection with the Pathfinder, a certainty that this anomaly was important, perhaps even the reason for the ship's existence. "Admiral," she said, "I believe the Pathfinder was built for exactly this kind of discovery. Whatever that anomaly is, it's connected to the ship somehow. I can feel it." Vexstar studied her for a long moment. "Your recommendation is noted, Commander. We will discuss this matter with the full Science Council before making any decisions." As they left the docking bay, Elara glanced back at the celestial Pathfinder. In her mind, she could still feel its presence, alert, watchful, and somehow knowing. This wasn't just a chance assignment or an interesting technical challenge. This was destiny. Asterisk legacy of the Starstwo days after the successful test flight. The celestial Pathfinder departed Nexus Station with a hastily assembled crew. The anomaly had grown, its energy readings spiking in patterns that alarmed the Science Council enough to override standard protocols. Commander Elara Chen sat in the pilot's seat, the neural interface humming as the ship's consciousness merged with her own. Beside her, a mixed team of specialists occupied the command deck, representatives from 6 different Confederation species, each an expert in their field. Lieutenant Tarvik, a stocky Vordan with granite-like skin, handled weapons and defense systems. Science Officer Niall Rem, a Phaexi whose translucent body revealed the constant flow of biochemical processes, monitored the anomaly data. Communications Specialist Zell was a Kirith, an avian species renowned for their ability to interpret patterns in signals. Rounding out the team were Engineer Drav, a methodical Tekari, Medical Officer Sen, empathic Luraxi, and Navigator Peltor, a Mavori whose species had mapped more star systems than any other in the Confederation. The atmosphere was tense. Most of the crew had been selected for their technical expertise rather than their diplomatic skills, and none had worked closely with humans before. Approaching anomaly perimeter, Elara announced, feeling the Pathfinder systems adjust to the strange spatial distortions ahead, preparing for detailed scan sequence. Through the viewports and enhanced sensor displays, the anomaly appeared as a shimmering distortion in space, a wound in reality that pulsed with colors beyond normal perception. The Pathfinder's sensors penetrated deeper than any previous instrument, revealing complex structures within the phenomenon. "Fascinating," Niall Rem murmured. "Translucent appendages manipulating the science station controls. It appears to be a controlled tier in space-time, similar to artificial wormhole technology, but orders of magnitude more sophisticated and older." Elara added, information flowing to her through the neural link. The Pathfinder estimates the anomaly is at least 50,000 years old, possibly much more. Navigator Pelter's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "Impossible. No civilization has maintained stable space-time manipulation for more than a few centuries. The energy requirements alone, something's emerging from the anomaly." Lieutenant Tarvik interrupted, defensive systems coming online automatically. A massive shape slid through the distortion, ancient and scarred, yet unmistakably a vessel of some kind. Nearly 5 times the size of the Pathfinder, its design was unlike anything in Confederation records. The hull was composed of interlocking geometric patterns that seemed to shift and realign, even as they watched. "No energy signatures," reported Tarvik. "It appears to be derelict." "No," Elara contradicted. "Receiving information directly from the Pathfinder's enhanced sensors, it's in low-power mode, but definitely active, and it's scanning us." The derelict ship suddenly blazed with light, patterns of energy coursing across its geometric hull. A beam of coherent energy, not a weapon, but a complex data transmission, struck the Pathfinder. Elara gasped as information flooded through the neural link. Too fast and dense for her conscious mind to process, the Pathfinder absorbed the data, stream, filtering and interpreting. What's happening? Demanded NIREM. Instruments going haywire. Communication, Alara managed as the initial overwhelming surge subsided. The ship is recognizing the Pathfinder and me through the neural link. Understanding crystallized. The derelict wasn't just any ancient vessel, it was a guardian ship, created by a species that called themselves the Precursors. They had vanished from the galaxy long before any current civilization achieved spaceflight, leaving behind only fragments of their advanced technology. The Pathfinder was built using precursor technology recovered from archaeological sites. Alara explained, translating the information flowing through her mind, but not just random pieces, specific components designed to respond to human neural patterns. That's absurd, Navigator Peltor objected. Humans weren't even spacefaring when the Pathfinder's construction began. How could precursor technology from thousands of years ago be designed for human pilots before Alara could respond? The derelict ship transmitted again, this time a more focused message that manifested as images and concepts in her mind. They knew, she whispered. The Precursors visited Earth thousands of years ago. They studied human evolution and recognized something unique in our neural architecture. Something they predicted would develop into exactly what they needed. Needed for what? Lieutenant Tarvik asked, weapons still at ready. Alara's eyes widened as the answer came through the link. Succession. The Precursors were dying out, a genetic degradation they couldn't reverse. They seeded technologies throughout the galaxy that would only fully activate when found by species with compatible neural patterns. Humans are the first to match their criteria in over 50,000 years. Science officer Niall Wren's body pulsed with skepticism. You're suggesting a long-dead species somehow predicted human neurological evolution and designed technology specifically for it? That's beyond implausible. The Precursors operated on timescales we can barely comprehend, Alara replied. They could see patterns in evolution, predict developmental paths across millions of years. They didn't just hope humans would evolve compatible neural systems, they knew we would. The command deck fell silent as the implications sank in. If true, this discovery rewrote the understanding of galactic history and humanity's place in it. The contemplation was short-lived. Alarm systems blared as new vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel nearby. Sleek predatory ships with weapons already charging, scavengers, Tarvik growled. They must have detected the energy surge from the Guardian ship's awakening. Communications specialist Zell's feathers bristled. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, claiming salvage rights to both vessels. Salvage rights? Alara's indignation flowed through the neural link. The Pathfinder systems responding to her emotion. This isn't wreckage, it's a functioning precursor ship making first contact. The lead scavenger vessel fired a warning shot that dissipated against the Pathfinder's shields. Their weapons are primitive by Confederation standards, Tarvik reported. But there are 7 of them, and they're positioning to surround us through the link. Alara felt the Guardian ship's response, ancient defense systems coming online. But slowly. After 50 millennia in low-power mode, the vessel needed time to fully activate. We need to protect the Guardian ship until it can defend itself, she decided. Tarvik. Defensive patterns only, Zell. Broadcast Confederation identification and warnings on all frequencies. The scavengers were undeterred. Their ships moved with practiced coordination, clearly accustomed to overwhelming lone vessels. What happened next astonished everyone on the command deck. Without conscious command from Alara, the Pathfinder executed a series of maneuvers that defied conventional physics, slipping between the attacking vessels with impossible precision, shields flaring to deflect weapons fire while never returning fire. How are you doing this? Navigator Peltor demanded, multiple eyes wide with disbelief. I'm not, Alara replied, feeling the ship's consciousness guiding her hands and thoughts. The Pathfinder is showing me how drawing on combat protocols I didn't know existed. Through the neural link, she understood. The Pathfinder wasn't just built with fragments of precursor technology. It was designed as a key to unlock the Guardian ship's full potential. Now that connection had been established, both vessels were sharing information, capabilities evolving with each passing moment. The Guardian is transmitting tactical data, she explained. Ancient battle strategies the scavengers can't possibly anticipate. For 10 tense minutes, the Pathfinder danced among the scavenger ships, absorbing hits while protecting the slowly awakening Guardian. Then, the ancient vessel pulsed with energy and 7 scavenger ships suddenly found themselves immobiles. Caught in localized distortions of space-time, stasis fields. Science officer Niall Rem marveled. Theoretical technology we've never been able to stabilize. With the immediate threat neutralized, Elara guided the Pathfinder back alongside the Guardian ship. Through the neural link, a more complex communication flowed, not just data, but purpose, legacy, responsibility. The Guardian wants us to dock, she announced. There's something we need to see. The interior of the Guardian ship defied expectations, despite its age. The corridors hummed with energy, lighting adjusting automatically as they proceeded. The atmosphere was breathable without suits, maintained by systems that had functioned flawlessly for millennia. Elara led the small exploration team herself, Niall Rem, Tarvik, and Engineer Drav. The others remained aboard the Pathfinder, monitoring the disabled scavenger vessels and maintaining communication with Nexus Station. The architecture is extraordinary, Drav commented, scanning the seamless corridors. No visible joints or seams. The entire structure appears to be grown rather than assembled. Biomechanical engineering beyond anything in our records, agreed Niall Rem. The material is responding to our presence, adjusting temperature and lighting. For our comfort, Elara felt drawn forward by more than curiosity. Through her lingering connection with the Pathfinder, the Guardian ship communicated not with words, but with impressions and directional urgencies. She understood intuitively where they needed to go. They entered a vast chamber at the heart of the vessel. The walls displayed moving images, star systems, planetary formations, evolutionary sequences spanning billions of years. At the center stood a crystalline structure pulsing with soft blue light. It's a repository, Elara breathed. The collective knowledge of the precursor civilization. As she approached the crystal, it brightened in response. When she placed her hand upon its surface, the entire chamber transformed. The walls, floor, and ceiling became a single unified display of the galaxy, not as it was now, but as it had been 50,000 years ago when the precursors were at their height. Through the crystal, the final message of the precursors flowed into her mind. They were the Guardians, she explained to her awestruck companions. For millions of years, they protected developing worlds and species from cosmic threats, stellar instabilities, gamma-ray bursts, even deliberate attempts by less benevolent advanced civilizations to prevent competition. And now, Tarvik asked, now they're gone. But they left behind their technology hidden in ways that only species with specific neural characteristics could discover and utilize. Elara's voice filled with wonder. They studied thousands of developing worlds, making projections about which might produce suitable successors. Earth was one of only 12 planets they identified with high potential. Niall Rem's translucent form pulsed with skepticism. If true, why has no evidence of their visits to Earth been discovered? Because they were careful, Elara replied. They observed, collected data, and left without interference. They believed that for a species to be worthy of their legacy, it had to develop independently, without knowing it was being guided or observed. The crystal pulsed again, transferring more information. There are threats coming, Elara continued, her expression growing serious. Cosmic events the precursors predicted. Hostile forces from beyond the galactic rim that emerge in cycles. The Pathfinder isn't just a ship, it's the first key to awakening the Guardian network that the precursors left dormant throughout the galaxy. Engineer Driv looked troubled. Why humans? What makes your species the chosen successors? The answer flowed through the crystal connection. Balance, Elara said. Humans possess a unique neural architecture that balances logic and intuition, caution and boldness, preservation and innovation. The precursors themselves evolved too far toward pure logic and efficiency. It made them incredible builders and caretakers, but eventually limited their adaptive capacity. They saw in humanity's chaotic, Contradictory nature, the potential for a different kind of guardian, she continued. One that could understand both preservation and transformation, stability and change. Lieutenant Tarvik, who had been silently absorbing this information, finally spoke. If the Confederation learns that humans have exclusive access to precursor technology, it will create dangerous political tensions. Some will see it as an intolerable power imbalance. That's why the precursors didn't design their technology for exclusive human use. Alara clarified. Humans are simply the activators, the keys. Once awakened, the Guardian network can connect with all sentient beings. The Pathfinder responds to me, but its full capabilities are meant to be shared. As if to demonstrate, the crystal projected a sequence showing humans working alongside other species, each contributing unique perspectives and abilities to manage the awakened Guardian network. It was never about human supremacy, Alara said softly. It was about humanity's role as bridge builders. The precursors saw in us the potential to unite rather than conquer, to form connections across differences that they themselves struggled to achieve when they returned to Nexus Station. The Celestial Pathfinder was no longer just an experimental vessel, but the herald of a new era in galactic history. Admiral Vexstar listened in stunned silence as Alara and her crew reported their discoveries, supported by terabytes of data from both the Pathfinder and the Guardian ship. This changes everything, the Admiral finally said. The Confederation Council must be informed immediately. If your interpretation is correct, we face both unprecedented opportunity and potential threats from beyond the rim, Science Director Zhenla, initially the most skeptical about human involvement, had been thoroughly analyzing the data. The evidence is compelling. The neural compatibility patterns, the predicted cosmic events, all verifiable through independent analysis. The precursors did indeed select humans as the activators of their dormant network. The council chambers erupted in debate when the findings were presented. Some representatives saw this as humanity being elevated above other species as dangerous, imbalance in the carefully maintained equality of the Confederation. Others recognized the opportunity presented by access to precursor technology. Commander Alara Chen stood before the council, still feeling echoes of the Pathfinder's consciousness. In her mind, the Celestial Pathfinder chose a human pilot not because humans are superior, she explained, but because we represent something the galaxy needs: adaptability, intuition, and a capacity to bridge logical and emotional thinking. The precursors didn't choose us to rule, they chose us to connect. She gestured to her diverse crew, who stood united despite their initial skepticism. My crew has witnessed firsthand that the Guardian technology responds most powerfully when multiple species work together, each contributing their unique perspectives. Humans may be the keys, but we all hold pieces of the lock. In the weeks that followed, Alara supervised the formation of the first Joint Guardian Initiative, a program to locate and activate more precursor technology throughout the galaxy. The Celestial Pathfinder, once merely an experimental vessel, became the flagship of a new fleet. Each ship designed with human neural interfaces, but crewed by diverse species from across the Confederation. And as for the ship that had once refused to fly, it now soared between the stars with purpose and promise, guided by the hands of a human pilot, but carrying the hopes of an entire galaxy. In the pilot's seat, Alara felt the Pathfinder's consciousness merging with her own, no longer strange but familiar as her own heartbeat. Through their connection, she sensed other Guardian ships awakening across the vastness of space, responding to the call that had waited 50,000 years to be answered. "Where to next?" asked Navigator Peltor, who had become one of her strongest supporters. Alara smiled, feeling the ship's eagerness matching her own. "Everywhere. We have a galaxy to protect together." The Celestial Pathfinder's engines hummed with power as it accelerated into the unknown, carrying forward a legacy as ancient as the stars themselves. Asterisk,